10 random magic cards, day number 41, everybody. A little hilarious. How's your Sunday going? Let's try to make it a little bit better. Gird for battle is the first card of the day. A single white mana for a sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. I remember when this was actually playable because heroic was a thing. And heroic creatures want to be targeted by stuff on your turn, and this is a way of proccing heroic twice. So this did actually see some play, man. And maybe it still would. If, like, was it not heroic? Was it the Radiant deck? Was it the Radiant Feathers, whatever, the Boros Legend, the 3-drop, the guy, you know? I think it may have been that deck, actually. But just an actually kind of good card. But I'm still just going to give this like a 4.9. You know, it is slightly below average. Let's call it what it is. You know what I mean? So we'll move on to Yotai, Moog Ancient. Is there a normal looking version of this magic card? Just barely. 4 mana, 2, a green, and a blue for a 2/4 legendary elemental. When it ETBs, create a 1/1 green forest Dryad land creature token for each time you cast your commander from the command zone this game. At the beginning of each combat, land creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is Yotai's power. Yikes, man. Alright, so when it ETBs, you get a guy. And if you cast it the second time, you get a guy. Cast it the third time, you get 3 guys. So a guy, 2 guys, 3 guys. And by then it's costing an awful lot of mana. But you're probably ramping. You're probably making your lands into creatures. You're probably playing Awaken the Woods or Living Lands or like some other thing like that. So if you can increase this guy's power, then suddenly, you know, you swing for like 7 with all your lands or more. I don't know. It sure seems like a lot of work. It seems like so much work. I don't know, 4 mana for 3/5 worth of stats on 2 guys. That's draft. It's not. Slightly better than draft, but we're close to draft. That's, you know, am I okay not loving this? It's a very unique commander, and so I'm gonna give it some points for that. But I'm gonna go move back and give Gird for battle a 4.5. I'm gonna retroactively give Gird for battle a 4.5, and I'm gonna give this a 5. Right at average, in my opinion, honestly, because again, the fact that it's a unique commander that there aren't a whole lot of commanders like is really doing some heavy lifting. Otherwise, this would be like a 4 point something. But cool that it can be in your command zone and you can build your whole deck around it and get excited about it for Friday nights and say it's cool. It's a cool card. So we'll move on to Clear here. This is only ever printed in Urza's Saga, but not on the reserve list. 2 mana, 1 and a white, instant, destroy target enchantment. You can cycle it for 2. I love stuff like this. I really do. Simple and clear, like Kingdom Hearts. It's actually simple and clean, like Kingdom Hearts, but you get what I'm trying to say. I also like the Andrew Robinson art on this. I like the color palette. Dude looks chill. You know, I like the magic in the art. Just altogether nice, man. I'd like to have this framed up somewhere, but still, like, destroy target enchantment, but you can cycle it, so it goes in your main deck. Like, what a wonderful gameplay solution. I'm going to give this card a 5.1. Same score that I gave like the last card. But yeah, 5.1. That's a good magic card. I like cycling. Sucker for cycling, dude. Put cycling on a terrible card and I'll love it. All basic lands get a 5. As far as this art goes, it's all right. It's more. Was the last card Rob Alexander? Did I just read that name? I feel like I just read that name. Huh. Interesting. Let's move on to Quicksmith Spy. This is 4 mana, 3 and a blue for a 2/3 human artificer. When it ETBs, target artifact you control gains tap, draw a card for as long as you control Spy. Really, really neat card, man. Didn't see any play in Standard from what I remember, but it was a cool card, and I would imagine people liked this in Commander for a time. It's probably bound to eventually be in some Commander product or another, although it hasn't yet. So I'm going to give this card a 4.9. This gets the 4.9 that I should have given Gird for battle. So that's becoming a theme here. Moving on to Singer of Swift Rivers. 3 mana, 1 a green and a blue for a 3/2 merfolk shaman with flash. When it ETBs, put a shield counter on another target creature you control. You may cast merfolk spells as though they had flash too. That's kind of neat. Pretty cool. I don't remember ever having really seen this card. It's from Lost Caverns of Ixalan Commander. I don't pay all the attention in the world to Commander products. I'm trying not to break my brain, and I look at a new Magic card every single day. Probably, honestly, yeah, there's 365 days in a year, and there's about that many cards in a Magic set, give or take. So I probably look at an average of like 8 new Magic cards a day. And that's insane to think about. So I don't want to break my brain. Man, I got to do a whole video about that now that I've actually done some of that math, and that's only rudimentary math. I probably look at more new Magic cards a day than that on average when you really think about how many new Magic cards there are every month. So yeah, anyway, I don't want to think about it too long or I will go insane. I have no mouth and I must scream. Singer of Swift's Rivers, on the other hand, this is a solid Magic card, right? I like a flash boy, and I like that it gives the boys flash. So just always, again, sucker for this. I'm a rube for cards like this. I'm going to give it a 5.4, somewhere in that general region. It also saves a guy, which is a good thing. Kendris Royal Funeral, however, is not a very good Magic card. This is 4 mana, 2 a white and a black for a legendary enchantment. When it ETBs, exile up to 2 target legendary creatures from your graveyard. You draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is the greatest mana value among cards exiled this way. Legendary spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each card exiled with the Kendris Royal Funeral. So if you exiled 2 cards, legendary spells cost 2 less to cast. Seems actually kind of sick. Seems okay, right? But that said, you could lose a bunch of life to this. You'll draw a couple of cards, but it doesn't actually do anything the turn it comes into play. Like 9 times out of 10, it's not going to actually do much besides draw you the cards. Going to leave you open in Standard, going to leave you open in Pioneer and Modern. I'm just not sure that 4 mana is what this effect needs to be in any format. I'm willing to be proven wrong at some point in my life about this card because the mana production it potentially gives you is very high, but you have to have those legends in the graveyard to get rid of anyway in the first place with it. You got to set that up somehow. How does your deck do that? Just a lot that the card does. There's not a whole lot of cards from March of the Machine Aftermath that are currently like 15 cents like you can get this card for, so that should tell you something. Just the fact the set was never opened by human hands, basically. The cards are usually worth at least something, but not the case in this one because it's probably the worst card in the set in a lot of ways. So I'm going to give the Kendris Royal Funeral a 4.3, and that 0.3 is all just like uniqueness factor, right? That's all. We're going to try to make this card work eventually. Moving on is Cop Green, baby. Circle of Protection Green. 1 and a white for an enchantment. If you pay 1, the next time a green source of your choice would deal damage to you this turn, prevent that damage. All circles get a 6. I think we've come to that conclusion long ago, and I'm sticking with it, baby. All circles get a 6. These are just solid Magic cards, but they are extremely narrow, obviously. So we'll move on to Cloud Post. This is a land, happens to also be a locust. Comes into play tapped. You can tap it and add 1 to your mana pool for each locust in play. This is banned in Modern and banned in Pauper. That is how powerful this card can be. If you have 4 locusts in play, then you're really getting 4 Cloud Post in play. You're getting a lot of mana off of each Cloud Post, kind of a mini little Tron kind of thing, right? But there are also other lands that are Locusi, right? There's lands that you can turn into a Cloud Post, thus making them a locust, like a Thespian Stage or something like it, right? So there'd be a lot of ways to kind of juice this, I guess. And we saw some of those ways before it was banned in Modern. So, 8 Post was a deck way back in the day that a lot of people like fear still. They just hear it and they break out into a sweat. So there's a reason the card is banned in the formats it's banned in. It is very powerful. I am going to give this card a 7.9. We'll say that much. You're not going to really ever see it played in Commander for the most part, but it's a real card for a reason. It's banned for a reason. Hydra Broodmaster is up next. This is 6 mana, 4 and 2 green for a 7/7 Hydra. You can pay 2X and a green to Monstrosity X. So if it's not monstrous, you're going to put X +1/+1 counters on it, and now it's monstrous. When it becomes monstrous, create XXX green Hydra creature tokens. So, if you pump 4 mana into this, then that's Monstrosity 2. So when it becomes monstrous, create X, create 2/2/2 green Hydra tokens if you paid basically a total of 5 mana to Monstrosity. Okay. So if I pay 7 mana to Monstrosity because this costs 6, then suddenly I get 3/3/3s and he becomes a 10/10. So that's not bad. I like Hydras, generally. I'm a big fan of Hydras. Oh yeah, I remember this art. I remember you now because of this art, which is, I like this. I like this art a lot. Look at the color palette that Steve Prescott employed here. Just beautiful. Colorful, Sky blue, I like it, man. I like when Magic cards look like this. But anyway, altogether, not great. Kind of an intro packy thing, you know what I mean? But could be good in certain like beginner cubes, even though it's not necessarily not complicated, but it's not simple either. It sits a good place in the middle. I like that about it. But honestly, I like Hydras. I do. I like Hydras. I like X things. So I'm going to give the card a 5.14, something like that, and leave it at that. I like big dudes. Swamp is up next. Art's good. I like the dubs, man. All basic lands get a 5. Denied is up next. That's an uncard. Will we ever get our last card of the day? It's Ninja of the Deep Hours. Yay. It's Ninja of the Deep Hours. This is 4 mana, 3 and a blue for a 2/2 human ninja with ninjutsu, 1 and a blue. That means you can return an unblocked attacker you control to your hand to put the card into play from your hand, tapped and attacking. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you can draw a card. Now, that's awesome. It reminded us all of Ophidian back in the day, but it's way better than Ophidian, you know? All you got to do is get a creature through unblocked, and then suddenly this guy comes down, always draws you a card, always does 2 damage as well, which is good because a lot of the dudes that would actually get through for combat damage would just do 1 damage. So it's kind of nice. You can also obviously repeat enter the battlefield triggers on stuff. This was just the, first famous and good ninjutsu card that made a lot of people fall in love with ninjutsu in the first place. Super iconic piece of cardboard here, dude. And it's actually still pretty expensive. It appears as though you cannot get a copy of this card for less than $1.12 right now, which is kind of surprising. I would have thought this card would have been like 25 cents, but nope. It's in all the ninjutsu decks. And if I'm not mistaken, Yuriko is one of the most popular commanders right now. So of course it's like a couple of bucks because it's going to be in every single ninjutsu deck that's ever built. So just awesome card to end on. I'm going to give Ninja of the Deep Hours. Ninja of the Deep Hours. When do you give a card like this? I'm going to give this a 6.9. I'm going to give it a 6.9. I think it deserves every drop of that score. But ask the audience, what do you think about Ninja of the Deep Hours? I asked you about Channel a couple of days ago. Still kind of waiting to see what you said. But Ninja of the Deep Hours? That's a tough one. It could be anywhere between like a 6.3 and a 7.5, and some people might even rate it higher than that. But I'm going 6.9, not just because it's a meme, just because I actually think it's the right score for this card. But that is all the cards for the week. We made it through another one, everybody. I'll see you bright and early tomorrow, Monday morning. I love you very much. Bye. I have to hit the thing. I have to record on the thing. I did it again. That's 3 times in a row. I will never remember, and it will be comical every time. Bye, everybody.